Jacob had many sons, but his heart was especially bound to the son of his old age, Joseph, born to him through Rachel, the wife he had loved most deeply. Joseph grew up in a large, complicated family, the son of one father, but with many brothers by different mothers. As a consequence, rivalry ran deep in Jacob's household. Joseph was different from his brothers. Jacob gave him a richly ornamented robe, a sign of special favor. But his brothers saw it as proof that their father loved him more than the rest, and bitterness grew in their hearts. To make matters worse, Joseph had dreams that pointed to a greater destiny. In one dream, he and his brothers were binding sheaves of grain in the field, and their sheaves bowed down to his. In another, the sun, moon, and 11 stars bowed down to him. When Joseph shared these dreams, his brothers' jealousy turned into hatred. One day, Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers who were grazing the flocks far away. As he approached, wearing the robe his father had given him, their anger boiled over. "Here comes the dreamer," they sneered. They plotted to kill him and throw him into a pit. But Reuben, the eldest, persuaded them not to shed blood. Instead, they stripped Joseph of his robe and threw him into an empty cistern. Soon, a caravan of traders passed by on their way to Egypt. Judah suggested they sell Joseph rather than leave him to die. So for 20 pieces of silver, they sold their brother into slavery. They dipped Joseph's robe in goat's blood and brought it back to Jacob, who believed his beloved son had been torn apart by wild animals. Jacob wept in anguish, refusing to be comforted. In Egypt, Joseph was sold to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh. Though enslaved, Joseph found favor, for the Lord was with him. He rose to manage Potiphar's household, but trouble soon came. Potiphar's wife tried to seduce him, but Joseph refused, saying, "How could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" Scorned, she falsely accused him, and Joseph was thrown into prison. Yet even in prison, the Lord was with him. Joseph was placed in charge of the other prisoners, and soon God gave him an opportunity. Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker were imprisoned, and both had troubling dreams. God gave Joseph the interpretations: the cupbearer would be restored, the baker executed. Joseph asked the cupbearer to remember him before Pharaoh, but when the man was released he forgot Joseph. For 2 more years, Joseph remained in prison. Then Pharaoh himself had 2 troubling dreams. The first was about 7 fat cows devoured by 7 thin ones, and the second, 7 healthy heads of grain swallowed by 7 thin scorched ones. None of Egypt's wise men could explain them. At last the cupbearer remembered Joseph, who was hurriedly brought from prison, shaved and dressed and presented to before Pharaoh. Joseph declared, "I can't do such a thing, but God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires." He explained that the dreams were one and the same: 7 years of abundance would be followed by 7 years of severe famine. He advised Pharaoh to appoint a wise man to collect food during the good years to prepare for the hard years ahead. Pharaoh recognized the Spirit of God in Joseph and appointed him as second-in-command over Egypt. Joseph was given authority, fine clothes, and Pharaoh's signet ring. At the age of 30, Joseph rose from prisoner to ruler entrusted with saving Egypt and the surrounding nations. When famine spread across the land, even Canaan was struck. Jacob sent his sons to Egypt to buy grain. They bowed before the governor of the land, not knowing it was Joseph, their brother, now clothed in power and speaking through an interpreter. Joseph recognized them, and then he realized that the dreams he'd had in Canaan had come true. Joseph tested his brothers, accusing them of being spies, then demanding they bring their youngest brother Benjamin to prove their honesty. At last, though it grieved their father, Benjamin was brought down to Egypt and stood before Joseph. When Joseph saw his youngest brother, his heart was deeply moved. Yet he tested his brothers once more, secretly placing his silver cup in Benjamin's sack and declaring that Benjamin must remain as his slave. Judah stepped forward, offering himself in Benjamin's place. At last Joseph could no longer control himself. He wept loudly and revealed his identity. "I am Joseph, your brother, the one you sold into Egypt. Don't be distressed or angry with yourselves for selling me, because it was to save people that God sent me ahead of you." The brothers were stunned, but Joseph embraced them, forgiving them completely. He sent for Jacob, and the whole family came to dwell in Egypt, safe under Joseph's protection. In his old age, Jacob blessed his sons, speaking words of prophecy over each one. In Genesis 49 verse 10, he said concerning Judah, "The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor the ruler's staff from between his feet, until he to whom it belongs shall come, and the obedience of the nations shall be his." This pointed forward to the Messiah, the king who would come from Judah's line. Though Joseph had saved his family in Egypt, God's greater plan was still unfolding. Jacob died in Egypt, but Joseph carried him back to Canaan for burial in the family tomb. Later, Joseph himself died, yet before his death he made the Israelites promise to carry his bones back when God brought them out of Egypt. He trusted that God's promises would not fail. Joseph's life teaches us powerful lessons. 1. God is sovereign over all things. Even betrayal, slavery, and prison became part of God's plan to save many people. 2. Faithfulness matters. Joseph resisted temptation, trusted God in hardship, and served faithfully wherever he was placed. And 3. Forgiveness brings healing. Instead of vengeance, Joseph forgave his brothers, bringing reconciliation to his family. Joseph and the golden thread. Joseph's story shines with the golden thread that leads us to Christ. The beloved son rejected, Joseph was the beloved son of his father, yet despised and betrayed by his brothers. Jesus too was the beloved Son of God, rejected by his own people. Sold for silver, Joseph was sold for 20 pieces of silver. Jesus was betrayed for 30. Suffering before glory, Joseph went down into the pit, into slavery and into prison, yet was raised up to the right hand of Pharaoh to rule and save. Jesus died and went down into the grave, but was raised to the right hand of God to give life and salvation to the world. Joseph, through God's grace, saved the world from death by feeding them. Jesus was the bread of life that the world might be saved through him. Forgiveness and life for the guilty. Joseph forgave the very brothers who betrayed him and gave them bread to live. Jesus forgives those who nailed him to the cross and offers himself as the bread of life. There's another way to join us on the journey, one that explores in more detail the practical aspects of walking toward God's kingdom. It is our free, multilingual, Bible-based Christianity course, a free 30-lesson video course covering all aspects of the Bible and daily life. And if you have questions about Scripture, there is a multilingual chat system on the website where you can ask any question on scriptural issues. To access any of them, simply visit the website listed below. If we don't yet have videos or the course in your language, please email us at the address shown, telling us what you are interested in and your language, and we will do our best to create them for you. God bless you on your walk to His kingdom.